Good evening. Hi everyone, I'm Svetlana and I work within the Future Student team at UNSW as a Senior Recruitment Product Manager.
And hi, my name's Shashma and I also work within the Future Students team as a faculty partner.
Tonight's live stream event is designed to give our parents and guardians the insights, tips and tricks on how to best support their child through final exams and taking that next step after high school. Tonight, we're joining from the UNSW Kensington campus, which is on Bidjigal land. I would like to acknowledge the Bidjigal, Gadigal and Ngunnawal people who are the traditional custodians of the land on which each of our UNSW campuses stand. And I would also like to pay my respect to the elders, both past and present, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are joining us today. So, we have a jam-packed schedule evening for you, so let me talk you through our agenda. Number one, we'll give you guidance on the application and admissions process at UNSW. We will then hear from our guest speaker, Jamie Dracup, Associate Lecturer at UNSW, who will share his expert advice and tips on how to support your child through this crucial time. Shashma will then be running through an overview of what life is like at university. And lastly, we'll do a live Q&A session with Selena Chin, a current Bachelor of Commerce and Law student, to gain further insights from a student's perspective. We encourage you to place your questions in the chat now and throughout the session. I will now throw to Shashma to get us started.
Great, thanks so much, Svetlana. So in 2024, UNSW is celebrating 75 years of progress for all. UNSW was actually founded in 1949 as a technical institution with a focus on science and engineering due to a shortage in the Australian workforce after the war. Since then, we've come a long way. We now have over 70,000 students taking more than 300 degrees and degree combinations. Many of our students also take advantage of our 300 international exchange partners that are spread across 35 countries. In 2024, we've risen to be a top 20 global university, and we're ranked first in Australia for both sustainability and employment outcomes. We also have the highest number of graduates in the AFR Top 100 Most Employable Graduates and produce the most CEOs of any university in Australia. So it's safe to say we've made some serious progress and we continue to focus on progress for all. At UNSW, we have a wide range of study areas. As a parent, we should definitely encourage our children to explore their passions and see where it takes them. At UNSW, we offer degrees in arts, design and architecture, which has over 50 diverse disciplines to choose from. We also have UNSW Business School, which is ranked Australia's #1 business school, plus top ranking in Australia across accounting, finance, actuarial studies and information systems. In engineering, there are a whopping 26 specialisations within its undergraduate programs, and it's ranked the #1 engineering faculty in Australia. We have our Faculty of Law and Justice, which is home to our incredible community legal centre that our students are actively involved in and which is located right here on campus. There's also our Faculty of Medicine and Health. Students in this faculty are getting hands-on training from as early as their first year through clinical experiences in some of Australia's largest hospitals and health organisations. And of course, science, one of our really popular faculties with many different degrees offering strong industry connections and research opportunities. I also want to take a moment to highlight UNSW Canberra. UNSW Canberra is linked with the Australian Defence Force, but we've also recently opened a brand new campus in Canberra City where we offer a Bachelor of Cybersecurity. So double degrees, it's always something to be discussed. It's a popular option, especially for those students who might be passionate about two different disciplines. Perhaps your child is talented in various areas. A double degree could be a great fit for them. It's worth bringing it up in conversation or having it as something that they might want to explore in more detail. A great example are those creative students who might pair a talent in music or visual arts with a Bachelor in Commerce, and it really gives them that competitive edge when they step into industry after their studies. Now, keep in mind, double degrees are streamlined, so you're not taking on a heavier workload within each study term. So it's a great solution for these students who want to explore more than one area. I'll now throw back to Svet to talk us through applying to UNSW.
Thanks, Tashma. Now, whilst I talk through this topic, we encourage parents to submit their questions via the Q&A function. Now, I'm going to be talking through some helpful terms. So, to help with tonight's session, as you move towards supporting your child in their journey to university, it's helpful that you're familiar with some of our terminology. To start, we have a couple of acronyms. So UAC, the University's Admission Centre. This is a central repository where most universities make offers to their undergraduate and some postgraduate courses. Then we have ATAR, which is the Australian Tertiary Admission Rank. This is calculated in New South Wales by UAC from the raw HSC results. We've also put some key terms in, so preferences and offer rounds within UAC. It's important to understand that students get 5 preferences within UAC, and each preference refers to a specific degree at a specific universities. Universities then look at these preferences within the offer rounds to make offers to students for those degrees at their universities. It's good to note that students are only able to receive 1 offer per offer round. And diving deeper into the university world, we also have the terms degree or course. Different universities call them different things, so watch out when you're helping your child doing your research. Then a helpful tip if you haven't attended uni is the difference between a major, a minor, and a specialisation. So these sit within the degree course and refers to the amount of courses a student is taking in one specific area. For example, if you have the Bachelor of Engineering Honours, within this degree you can specialise in civil engineering and you can take 1. Whereas in the Bachelor of Arts, you can choose more than 1 majors such as creative writing, history, etc. Moving on to some key dates, so it's good to be across these dates and ensure that your child is across them too. So you'll notice that we've chosen to start the slide from September. This is because most schools determine their own trial HSC exam dates, which I'm sure you know are coming up very, very soon. So a key call out is Wednesday, 18th of December, after the HSC and schoolies are complete. You can see here that the HSC results are released around 7 a.m. and then ATARs will come out on the same day at about 9 a.m. Students will only have until midnight that same evening to change their preferences, armed with knowledge of their ATAR. Most unis also hold their info days on this day, so this is where students can come on campus and ask specific questions about their degree of choice. The main university offer round is Monday 23rd of December. Keeping in mind students also have offer rounds in January, and medicine courses only release offers from January round 1. So this leads me on to getting an offer. So getting an offer to UNSW, where we look at the lowest selection rank. So we don't have guaranteed entry ATARs, but we go off the lowest selection rank as an indicator to what might get students into the degree. So what is a lowest selection rank or a selection rank? It's your raw ATAR plus any adjustment factors you may be eligible for. Now you might be sitting at home wondering, what are adjustment factors? So let me talk you through. There are 3 different types of adjustment factors, starting off with HSC+. This is for students who have ranked well in the HSC subject that is relevant to the UNSW degree they want to study. And within this scheme, this is automatically reviewed, by UAC, and students are eligible to receive a maximum of 5 points. Then you have EAPL, which is Elite Athletes Performers and Leaders Scheme. This is for students that excel within sports, music, performance, and this is also a maximum of 5 adjustment factors. And finally, we have EAS. This scheme is run through UAC, and it's for those who go through financial, personal, or other long-term disadvantage through year 11 and 12, Good to know there's a maximum of 12 points that can be used towards your 2025 admissions across all 3 adjustment factor scheme. You can find out more information on the link that's in the slide, where you can actually see which HSC subjects are related to the degree that they're interested in. And then next, we've got some preferencing tips. So when it comes to preferencing your degrees within UAC, we have a few tips. So treat it like a wish list. Put your preferred at number 1 and then go down the list. Be realistic and informed. If you have a predicted ATAR, for example, make sure to put at least 1 degree that matches your predicted ATAR. Make sure you also have a safety net. You don't want to put all 5 degrees that have the same lowest selection rank, for example, as you want to guarantee yourself an offer in 1 round. Remember though, there are multiple offer rounds, but some degrees have limited spaces. And finally, only apply to degrees that you're genuinely interested in studying. Okay, so, and I also want to highlight there are 2 different early entry schemes available at UNSW. So firstly, there is the Gateway Admission Pathway. This opportunity is available for students who either attend a gateway school or have a home address in a low socioeconomic area. For those eligible, there are 2 rounds, and for those that have not applied, round 2 opens on Friday, 6th of September, with early conditional offers being released on 6th of December, so prior to ATAR release. Then we've also got the Portfolio Entry Early Conditional Offer Scheme. This is also, there are 2 rounds for this. Round 1 has closed, but round 2 opens on 7th of September on Open Day, and it's for degrees within the Faculty of Arts, Design and Architecture and the Faculty of Engineering. Early conditional offers are also released on the 6th of December. And now you've heard about the early entry, there's also alternative entry that you may want to be aware of. So as a parent, you may also want to explore backup options. So there are a range of options for alternative entry, and there are always pathways to areas of study or careers that a student is passionate about. So we have the internal transfer program, and actually 25% of our student cohort changed their mind and uses this process to change the degrees at least once. We've also got TAFE or other university pathways, the UNSW Prep program, and the UNSW Indigenous Prep program. Now, we would love to welcome Jamie Dracup, who's an associate lecturer here at UNSW for the School of Psychology. Jamie will talk us through what is stress, how it is best managed, and more importantly, how parents can best support their child through this heightened time. Welcome, Jamie.
Hi everyone, my name's Jamie, and I thought I'd use this first slide to introduce myself. So I'm also a parent, but I don't have to worry about uni just yet because my daughter's only 15 months old. I hold a PhD in psychology, and as part of my studies I've had a look into the neuroscience of stress. Now, I don't personally treat clients, however I have supervised a team of honours students in mental health in my work at Monash University. I've since transitioned full-time to UNSW, and I spend most of my time teaching psychology here. So as I'm sure everyone is aware, the HSC is a stressful time. So it's stressful for parents, it's stressful for teachers, and in particular, it's stressful for students. So what I'd like to do this evening is give everyone an overview of stress, talk about how to best manage stress, and then finish up with a discussion of communication and support for your child. So stress is a normal and healthy response that helps us to deal with life's challenges. It evolved to help us respond when we feel threatened. It involves a psychological response. So when we're thinking about exam stress, you might feel a little bit rushed, a little bit panicked. You might be perhaps concerned about failing your exam. And while this isn't an amazing feeling, it might not feel great, it actually is our own mind trying to help us. It might help you feel a little bit more alert, might help you pay attention to the threat. So if you're a little bit worried about your exam, maybe that'll motivate you to study a bit harder for it. Now, stress also involves a physical response. So a few examples of this: our breathing will increase, and the idea there is to get more oxygen into our lungs. Our heart may start to pump a little bit faster, and that'll get more oxygenated blood to our muscles. So this actually helps us in situations where we might need to fight or run away from a dangerous situation. So it's a good idea to have lots of oxygenated blood in your legs if you need to use those legs to run away. Now, when I say fight, I'm really talking about any response where we directly confront a threat. So I don't just mean, put your hands up, time to box. I mean something like, for exams, you might want to directly deal with that stress by studying. And when I say run away or flight responses, that's any time when we have a challenge in our life and we try to escape from it or we try to avoid it. So thinking about studying, maybe if you were really nervous about a presentation in class, there might be a little voice in the back of your head saying, maybe I can just call in sick, miss the class, and that's an attempt to escape from or avoid it, and that's what we call a flight response. Now, I do think it's interesting to note that the physical response evolved at least in part to deal with physical threats, and it doesn't always line up perfectly with the modern world. So feeling really sweaty in an exam, probably not the most useful response, probably a little bit more useful if you needed to cool your body down while you're running away from something scary. So when we're thinking about managing stress, I do want to emphasize that psychology isn't always about avoiding difficult times. It's certainly more about being strong enough to get through them. And when we're thinking about how we respond to threats and challenges, something like avoidance, it doesn't necessarily make us feel better. As a matter of fact, when we sort of run away from our problems and just try to avoid them, it'll generally maintain or can even increase how anxious we feel about something. Now, that being said, problems can occur when stress is too intense. So something like a panic attack may occur in really intensely stressful environments, and we can also run into some problems if stress lasts for a really long time. So something like chronic stress isn't good for us. We can eventually deal with things like heart disease. So remember how I said that your heart pumps faster when you're stressed? Well, over a long period of time, your heart can actually be damaged a little bit through something like chronic stress. You might end up with problems with your sleeping, and that's actually a good hint that maybe stress is becoming a little bit too intense when you're having trouble sleeping because of stress. And it's certainly also associated with some mental health problems like anxiety and other conditions as well. So what does this mean overall? Well, we don't want to always avoid stress. I've just said that avoidance responses aren't always, or they're not always possible, and they're not always the best way. But we do have to certainly try to manage it. So we're not trying to run away from it. Often we are trying to deal with it in a healthy way through stress management. We've got a few things listed here that I think are a few ways to get started on that. I am a big fan of living a mentally healthy lifestyle. So things like nutrition, exercise, sleep, avoiding substance abuse. If you try to do those things, it can just help your body and your mind deal with stress. And when you're doing that, I do encourage things that get your heart going. So I keep coming back to the heart because it is such an essential component of stress. So something like exercise that gets your heart going is a great way to help deal with stress. When I say these things, I don't mean you don't have to exercise like an Olympian. It's just something that if you're sort of trying to drift more towards these things, trying to get quality foods, get some workouts in, you don't have to sleep 8 hours every night, but put some emphasis on trying to get quality sleep. Things like that will help you do better. And even if you're not perfect, it's more when things are in the opposite direction, poor food, no exercise, little sleep, that you'll probably have more trouble with stress. I also want to emphasize recovery. So recovery is actually really important for performance. So try to find some kind of way to wind down and do it regularly. So there's lots of things that they suggest. Time in nature, could be the bush, could be the beach. Some people enjoy listening to music, time with friends and family, your favorite hobby. Whatever it is, it's a personal thing, but find something that helps you rest, recover, and prioritize it. So my favorite is the sauna to ice bath. So I did that last night, and I'm certainly feeling a little bit more recovered today. So to finish up, I want to have a little think about communication and support. So I'm going to draw on my experience as an honours level supervisor. So the honours year in psychology is just as difficult and competitive, maybe even a little bit more so than the HSC. So I've tried to support my team through that. When I'm thinking about this, I do want to say that if something is going really wrong, there are professionals that can help. If it's sort of drifting a little bit more from normal stress, it's a hard time going through something like the HSC, and more towards really regular panic attacks, not being able to get off the couch for a month because you're feeling depressed, something like that. Have a think about the professionals, psychologists, GPs, psychiatrists. They're there to help. When I am trying to support my team academically, I do try to emphasize strong relationships. So I find that if I trust and respect my team, hopefully they'll trust me and respect me. I also try to sort of build their confidence and their competence. So I find that if I treat someone like they're intelligent and strong, it encourages them to act that way. And the third thing that I think about when supporting people academically is trying to grant some autonomy. So I don't want to do everything for my team. I just want to give my team the tools that they need so that they can go and do the things that they need to do for themselves. So overall, I just want to encourage people to try to balance what's called control and warmth. So you want to balance how strict you are, not being too strict, not having no rules, with also being kind and caring. And generally speaking, that type of parenting is very effective.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jamie. It's been really good to gain a further perspective on stress, particularly the role of evolution and how we can manage it in today's society. We do have a few questions that we'd like to ask you to dive a little bit further and really help our parents who are online, perhaps, learn some more tips about how they can help their child during this heightened period. I guess the first question is, as a parent, should we be monitoring our child's sort of study time versus social life to ensure that they are sort of remaining motivated to study?
It's a good question, and I definitely think coming back to that balance of control and warmth. So, some monitoring, some advice, definitely. You probably want to avoid going all the way into being an authoritarian.
I think I err on the side of control.
Yeah. Well, it's good, some rules, some structure, it helps people. And as long as it's balanced with being kind, being caring as well, people tend to respond to a balance of those two.
Great.
Awesome. This is a question we get asked a lot, or we come across a lot anyway. What if the parent isn't on board with the degree their child wants to study?
I mean, again, it's a tricky question. I think there are pros and cons to different degrees, and I'd probably think back to developmental psychology. So ultimately, this is a time in people's life where they're moving from being more reliant on parents and parents' opinions and trying to eventually become completely independent. So some type of balance between, yes, here's the pros of this degree, here's why I'd love for you, here's why I think this is good for you, but also respecting that eventually they're going to have to be adults and make their own decisions. So trying to find some sort of middle ground there is the best way to go.
Great.
And Jamie, do you have any tips for how can parents support a child if they don't receive the ATAR that they were expecting, if they perhaps don't receive an offer to the degree that they had their heart set on? What steps can we take?
Yeah, I mean, this one's tough. It's always difficult. I deal with this when perhaps one of my own students that I've been supervising, maybe they haven't got the mark that they need to get into postgrad study. And what I always do when I'm thinking about that, I always encourage them to think about, it's most important that you do the best that you could have done. So that's what I want from my team, whether that's a distinction, whether that's a credit, whether that's all the way up at a HD. If they've done the best of their capabilities, then that's something they should be proud of. Now, in the real world, you do have more opportunities with higher marks. That's how it works. But there's often more than one way to get into a degree. There's often different pathways you can go down. And sometimes you may get into your first choice and realize it wasn't for you and try to do something else and realize, hey, I actually really enjoy this and can thrive in this new pathway that I hadn't even thought of before.
Absolutely, good advice.
Okay. And then last question from me is, from your professional experience, are there any tricks or advice for a parent to implement to ensure their child is aware that they're being supported?
Yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily any tricks. I think people know. People know when you're there. Do feel free to be obvious about it. Say, I'd love to support you. What can I do to help? So just saying it out loud. I think when you do show that parental warmth, you show the kindness, you show the care, people will know. So I think just be obvious, say what you're doing, say I'm going to do this to help you, maybe I'm going to give you this reward if you do well, or whatever it may be. Because ultimately, by this age, and even young kids as well, they're really smart, and they'll know. They'll know if you care, and they'll know if you're there for them.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie, for providing those valuable insights. We've learnt new tricks, and we do hope these, for those of you online, have found these valuable. So now we'll dive into the next session, which Shashma will talk through, Life at University.
So, making the most of your time at university. So UNSW runs on a 3-term calendar instead of the perhaps more traditional semester model. This is a little bit more similar to what students are actually used to at school. The full-time course load hasn't changed, so it's still 8 courses per year. What the 3-term calendar essentially means is we've taken the academic year and we've stretched it out, which kind of means there's less work at any given point in time. Having the 3 terms also allows for greater flexibility. So students can kind of look at when courses are taken, within reason, of course. But it means that students can choose to do a lighter term where they might do less courses, where this might be they might have a course that's a little bit harder that they want to focus on, or perhaps they have an internship that they want to complete. UNSW students can also be a little bit more strategic about planning out their study year using this 3-term calendar based on what they've got on and how they want to focus their time. Another option for your child when it comes to university study and the 3-term calendar is the option to take a term off without necessarily losing time or falling behind, so to speak. Or better yet, they could actually spend a term studying abroad. So having 3 different options as to when to start a term means it's more likely that you'll actually find a term that lines up well with one of our exchange partners. This is particularly relevant for the Northern Hemisphere. I guess we wanted to talk a little bit about life outside the classroom. UNSW is known for having the largest range of clubs and societies in Australia. We've got over 300. So it means our students understand how valuable the sense of community is. And it is really about balancing study, but also a social life. And again, we really encourage parents to support your child in finding that balance and to finding their little community within our larger one. Branching outside the classroom creates wonderful opportunities to develop key skills. So things such as critical communication, teamwork and leadership, they're all those kind of skills that we know are incredibly highly regarded by employers. It's also a great way to develop connections with like-minded peers, or maybe even peers who are in the same degree but a year or 2 ahead. So I would definitely suggest that you encourage your child when they're starting university to take a step outside the classroom, maybe join a new club, check out a society, as this will really open more doors for them in a positive way. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the support. We know that studying at university is a big step, but but at UNSW, we are here to support our students, and help is always available should they need it. We provide a huge number of support services that we would classify as personal support. So they're not all listed here, but I did want to touch on a couple of examples. So one of those is Nuragili. This is our Centre for Indigenous Programs. We also run the Ally program. This program supports LGBTIQA+ community. We have a religious centre which supports religious events, spaces and groups on campus. And we also have our student support and success advisors. So these advisors provide help with development of the skills that you need to succeed at university, as well as providing personal support. So often students may go to an advisor in the first instance if they need support, and this advisor can then refer the student onto another service depending on their needs. We also offer further academic support through the UNSW Academic Skills team. They provide a range of fantastic services. So these include things like workshops and courses, such as writing workshops, academic skills workshops, and study hacks workshops. Individual consultations are available where you can get one-on-one support and actually get advice about assignment writing. UNSW Smart Thinking is another initiative. Now, this actually provides students with access to a smart thinking tutor who can provide comprehensive feedback on their writing. There are also a range of other resources for academic writing and study success. So these are things to support with referencing, critical thinking, writing skills, reading and note-taking, as well as time management and even exam prep. There are also a number of health services, and these are designed really to support both your child's health and well-being. So these include the Psychology and Wellness Team, which is a free drop-in centre staffed by registered psychologists. One of my favourite wellness initiatives is actually hosted by ARC, and it's called Stress Less Week. So this happens in week 8 of every term, and it has a range of activities that are there to make sure students are getting realigned before they dive into their final assignments and exams. There's painting, yoga, dance classes, and even a petting zoo. I met some pretty nice llamas last term. So studying at university is really a holistic approach. As a parent, I think we really need to remind our children about all the different support services and approaches to life at university. This is really their next step into adulthood, and as a university, we're absolutely here to support them through that journey. So that's a little bit about the academic and the personal side of things, but what about the professional? UNSW really focuses on embedding industry exposure within all our degrees. You may have heard of Work Integrated Learning, or as we refer to it, WIL, which essentially means completing a placement or an internship for course credit. So we also use a centralised platform. So that means that no matter what faculty your child is studying in, they know that these WIL opportunities are available to them, even if they're delivered slightly differently in different disciplines. I also wanted to mention our Founders Program. This program supports students to get their ideas off the ground through pitch competitions, funding and mentoring. UNSW is ranked the #1 university attended by Australian startup founders. Now, this is probably due to the fact that we put a lot of support and effort into supporting entrepreneurship. Again, it's embedded into our degrees, but it's also supported by all these fantastic activities that happen outside the classroom and outside of our degree programs. Another one to highlight is our maker spaces on campus. These spaces actually provide support and access to a range of tools and machinery. They're open to all students to use and can be a really valuable resource if students want to make a prototype product or even just do some 3D printing. UNSW really takes, I guess, that support one step further. We want to provide support for professional development and career success for all our students. The Academic and Career Success team is available throughout uni, but it's also available for 18 months after students graduate. One of the highlights is the Launch Your Career Week. So during this week, we actually have various employers come to campus and hold sessions, and they'll cover information on graduate positions, internships, and employment opportunities. It's an excellent way to meet employers, to ask questions about career opportunities, but also for our students to gain tips on the recruitment process. UNSW Employability also runs courses that you can take as electives as part of your program. These courses include things such as creating your career and practice of work. There really are so many opportunities to take advantage of, so please remind your child to get involved with the employability team. The earlier they can do it on with their degree, the better they'll be for it. And so, to summarise, our key advice at this point in time is really be open-minded, encourage exploration. Encourage your child to strike a balance between their studies and outside the classroom opportunities. University is supposed to be fun. Most importantly, remind your child to be kind to themselves and maybe kind to you as well, and seek support when and where they need it. There's so much support available, and it's really important and beneficial to ask for help. And finally, I think that's probably enough from me. I'm actually going to welcome Selena Chin. So Selena is a UNSW student. She's going to join us for a discussion and a couple of questions. And I will invite Selena up to the floor. Welcome, Selena.
Welcome, Selena. Do you mind introducing yourself and tell us what you're studying?
Yeah, hi, my name is Selena. I'm in my 5th year studying a Bachelor of Law and Commerce, majoring in marketing.
Great.
Selena, can you tell us a little bit about university? How often are you on campus? What is your timetable like? And we've had questions around sort of, what sort of clubs and societies are there? What have you been involved in?
Yeah, well, university for me is such a vibrant experience. There's always so many things happening. You can walk on campus, there's food stores, there's activities, there's events, but even just like running into my friends that I haven't seen in a while from other classes. So it's a very vibrant, very social aspect, and that's something I really do enjoy about university. And the classes itself are also really interactive. It's a really good way to kind of meet new people, learn from other people, and just kind of have like in-class discussions. For me, classes, I've only ever been on campus 2 to 3 days at most. That's because I usually only do about 2 to 3 subjects a term because of the 3-term structure. So it really does allow me to kind of have my work commitments, have other extracurriculars and other things going on in my life, and really just kind of balance everything out so it's not just too focused on kind of one thing. So that's kind of my university schedule. In terms of societies, I've definitely been involved in a lot of different kind of societies and volunteering opportunities. The biggest one for me was the Law Society of UNSW. That's a student organisation that is based with my faculty, so I was very much connected to that. There was a lot of social events that I got involved in my first few years, a lot of career opportunities and networking events as well. So much so that I ended up becoming a director in the society, and then later on a vice president of the activities portfolio. So I was the one that was planning all these events for students, organising all these fun activities. But really it was a great way to kind of meet other students, not just in your cohort, but people from older years, people from younger cohorts. And it's definitely great knowing kind of older students because, they can pass on any advice that they've had.
Amazing. Society's incredible and also a really good way to build some of those employability skills. I know the Law Society is like its own little business. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Selena.
I'm just looking at a question here. Oh, yes. So you've mentioned so many things that you do within your studies. How do you manage your study and work-life balance within your degree? And do you have something in place like a study group or...
Yeah, well, for me, I guess the biggest tool I use is Google Calendar. It's a very simple, it's a very basic tool, but honestly, it's definitely the most helpful. So I put down all my classes, all my assignment due dates, exam days, my work schedule, social events, outings. I just like to see everything kind of all, organized nicely so that I can properly organize my schedule for the week and figure out kind of when I can do things or when I can slot in times for study, all that. It's just really helpful to kind of visualize it all. When it comes to, you know, managing a lot of different tasks, I like to literally write it out on a piece of paper and just stick it on my study table, just so I can see exactly what needs to be done, when things are due, and you know, the satisfaction of kind of ticking things off as you go is always really nice. With study, I definitely do have a group of friends that I do like to study with, not an official study group, you know, it's not closed off or anything, like anyone can join, but it's really nice just having kind of a supportive group of friends who are willing to kind of help you out. You know, the university study is not easy at some points, so there are times where you might have difficult concepts, or you might have been absent one week. So having other students and friends to kind of help assist you, or maybe they've done the course before and can kind of give you some tips as to how they approached it, is definitely kind of the way I like to manage my studies.
That sounds great. Sounds like you've got it down pat.
I might need you to come and manage my calendar. We've got another question here, which is a great one, and it's about just what's been your favourite part of your degree or your university experience so far?
Well, this one's a very fun question. The most exciting part for me was getting to go on a study exchange to the Netherlands last year. So that was something that I'd always wanted to do since high school, and so knowing that this was an opportunity at UNSW was something that was very appealing to me. So I spent 6 months in the Netherlands. So I studied law in a small city in the Netherlands. But whilst doing my studies there, I was able to travel Europe. Met so many amazing friends from around the world. So now if I ever want to go travel to different countries, I've got friends that are, you know, I can meet up with. So that was definitely a major highlight. It was the first time I lived by myself. I'd always lived at home, traveled alone. It was a really kind of self-building experience, just like learning a lot about myself and just getting to explore the world and travel. It was really, really fun.
Incredible.
That sounds like so much fun. Was it easy to organise? Like, how did you...
It wasn't, I mean, the process is obviously quite long, kind of figuring out what university to go to. You know, there's over 300 places to choose from, and different countries. And so figuring out kind of, you know, the one that suited what I wanted to achieve, you know, budget restrictions, and then figuring out what subjects I wanted to do. All that was definitely, it was a lot of work, but it was definitely well worth it.
Awesome. I'm just looking here. So this is a good one actually. When you were coming to university or UNSW, before you selected your degree, how supportive were your parents?
That's a good question. So my parents didn't go through the typical HSC kind of high school route. They were both immigrants. So coming into kind of Australia was a very different atmosphere, different environment. My dad was lucky enough to go to university, so he did have kind of some familiarity with what was expected, but obviously times have changed. So this experience was, you know, just as new for them as it was for me. And I think I probably should have realised that a bit at the time. You know, sometimes I think we do take a lot of slack on our parents. So, you know, I think my parents were very supportive. They were very encouraging with kind of wanting me to do what I wanted to do. They were very interested in kind of knowing what I was wanting to do. And my dad was quite, you know, on top of it. He was attending information sessions, watching kind of TED Talks on how to manage stress, how to study. So it was really nice just knowing that they were like supportive. And the biggest thing was just during that kind of key exam time, just, you know, understanding that no distractions, taking kind of those responsibilities away, chores, those kind of little things, just so I could focus on studies, but also realizing that, you know, I needed breaks, so they weren't constantly like study. They did understand that, you know, it was nice to have breaks and nice to kind of have distractions to take your mind off the exam period.
That sounds lovely.
That's incredible. Looking back, when you were in year 12, what was important to you? Like when you were looking at different universities, what helped you make that decision?
Yeah, I think for me, it was definitely the social aspect. You know, I think that kind of atmosphere and the environment that your university, you know, environment is in, really does make or break your experience. And so coming to UNSW's open day, I like fell in love with the campus and just seeing kind of all the vibrant like social life, all the different activities, the different societies. That was a really big selling point for me because I was like, I can imagine myself here. You know, the campus itself is beautiful and there's so many things things to get involved in. And I've always been that type of student that kind of got involved in all those different clubs and societies in school. I was always trying to do like leadership opportunities. So coming to UNSW and seeing that those opportunities were available was definitely one of the biggest highlights for me. But obviously another big thing was kind of the high academics. UNSW's law and business rankings were definitely one of the top in Australia. So knowing that coming to UNSW, I would get the chance to work with kind of the top academics that will really kind of prepare me for career opportunities was definitely a big, persuasive factor for my decision to choose UNSW.
Great. I can agree. I love Open Day as well.
Very fun event.
And then finally, if thinking back when you were leaving year 12 and heading into university, what would be your main advice be to future students?
I think the biggest piece of advice is, set yourself a goal, but, this doesn't have to be kind of the be all and end all. I think a lot of students fall into this trap that, the HSC, your ATAR, getting into your course is like the only thing that matters at the time. And I definitely fell into that trap as well as a student. But looking back at it now, I think the biggest advice is just to, not put so much pressure on this one particular moment in your life, just because there's so many other opportunities and so many other pathways to kind of get to where you want to be. That's going to be the situation even when you finish high school, going to university and everything. So really put that in perspective and just know that there's so many other ways to kind of get to where you want to be. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. Take those breaks if you feel like you've done a really good study session, or you feel like you're not understanding a concept. Take a break, do something that you enjoy that can take your mind off things, just to really balance yourself out, because it does help kind of coming back, looking at it with a fresh set of eyes. But yeah, that's probably my biggest piece of advice.
Absolutely. Manage that stress.
Yes, definitely.
Lots of saunas.
Exactly.
I'll skip the ice bath.
Thank you so much, Selena. They were great tips for our future students. Now, that's all we have time for today. I hope you have found this session useful and you've been able to take some tips for your children and for future students. Now, this is... the last thing I wanted to end on, was Open Day. So UNSW Open Day is on Saturday, 7th of September between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Everyone is welcome and we would love to see you there. If you still have questions after this session, please get in contact with our future students advisors via phone, email, or via our website link. We extend our open hours during peak time, such as change of preference dates, where students can get in touch to ask those critical questions. So for now, thank you for joining our Parents Information Evening, and we hope to see you on campus soon. Goodbye.